What's up, everybody? My name is Tim Roswick, and today we're talking about 6 ways on how to properly estimate the length of your project. This is one of the hardest things that you can do in any kind of development. Estimating the time it takes to do something is ridiculously hard, especially in software, because so many different things can come up. Features can come up, bugs can come up, shit can happen, power can go off, electricity can go out, internet can go out. There's no end to what can happen. So estimating a project for me has always been a problem, and I've noticed that I've gotten better at it the more I estimate it, like especially with clients and stuff, but it's never perfect. So I just want to get that out of the way and say there is no perfect way to estimate the length of the project. There is only the estimation, and estimations by definition are never accurate. So you can only kind of get sort of correct, and I would always rather estimate more time than too little time, because I feel like having more time is always beneficial. So let's get into it. First of all, I want to say that you should have a clear understanding of the objective and the talent that you have available. If it's just you, obviously you know what you're capable of, but you got to know the objective too. You got to know what you're trying to achieve, the specific deliverable that you want to have at the end of the day, at the end of the week, or the end of the month, or whatever it is. You got to know what you're doing and what you can do. If you don't know those two things, you need to learn those two things before you start estimating projects, because it can get really messy. And if you're working with a team and it's a new team, you're going to have a lot of difficulty, because it's really hard to estimate times, especially when you don't know how people work or how quick they are at whatever, or you don't just like generally get a vibe of like how the team works together. So you got to know those two things. If you don't know those two things, maybe you got to pause this video and take a week to learn all that, and then come back. Maybe it'll help you out. So first of all, first thing you want to do, and this is not one of the 6 ways, but it's one of the things that you want to do before you start, is you want to write out the deliverables clearly so that everybody knows. You want to put them in writing, put them in email, make sure that everybody understands exactly what you are delivering, okay? This needs to be super, super clear. If you're not sure on what you're delivering, you're going to have a hard time with actually getting stuff done and estimating what needs to happen if you don't know exactly what you're delivering. So that's important. So the first way that I estimate stuff is I calculate potential delays or problems, right? That's the first thing that I do, is I figure out, okay, what's going to go wrong? What can go wrong? I don't know. Maybe the stuff can, like my code can get lost, or somebody else can mess with code. If we have 2 programmers, maybe somebody muddies up somebody's code and it doesn't work. Maybe somebody has to go traveling, right? What if his suitcase gets lost? What if he doesn't have internet access when he gets there, or whatever it is? You got to be aware of potential issues and kind of estimate them ahead of time. The first way to estimate the length of your project is called parametric estimation, and it's basically when you understand the time it takes for a single task, you can multiply that by how many tasks that you have. So for example, if you're building a website, maybe you know that it takes 30 minutes to build one web page, right? Maybe this is a 10 web page site, so you multiply the 30 minutes by the 10 web pages, and you end up with 300 minutes for the whole website. It's not 100% accurate. Like I said, no estimation is, but it can kind of give you a ballpark of where you're headed. This works better for some stuff than others. In game development specifically, and software development, there's a lot of tasks that are varying length, so this is kind of difficult, but I wanted to throw that in for if you're doing anything that's repetitive or simple like that you can kind of use that kind of estimation. The second type of estimation is the 3-point estimation, which is where you take the best case, the thing that if everything goes smoothly, if everything goes perfect, how long will it take? And you really think about it, right? And then the second thing is you take the worst case, if everything goes horribly wrong and nothing works and tons of bugs and everything like that, how long does it take? And then the third, so you take the best case, the worst case, and then you take the likely case, right? Like what's more likely to happen? And more often than not, the likely case for me when I use this type of estimation is I kind of average the best and worst case, because something always goes wrong, and usually I'm not very good at coming up with what I think it will be. So, you know, that it's been somewhat useful for me, but like, to be honest, something always comes up that I had no idea it was going to come up. And I'm like, oh, well, that's obvious now. I would have known that if I could only see the future. So the third way is top down. And it's basically where you use your experience and you use your kind of knowledge of the team and the software to create an overview of what you want to estimate. So for me, I've done a lot of software projects. Specifically, one of the software projects that we do a lot is online, like web applications and platforms. I've built like 7 or 8 of these now with same team of contractors and stuff. And I'm pretty good at estimating those. Like I know how long they take. And to be honest, and on top of that, like I have the experience of kind of building the whole thing. I have the code base from pre-existing projects that I can reuse. I have a lot of the functions and stuff that I use. So I'm pretty good at kind of estimating an overview without really going into detail how that works. That takes experience. If you're new, this is not going to be good at an estimation method for you to use because it takes a lot of experience in understanding what you and your team is capable of. The fourth way is bottom up, which is the opposite of top down. And it's basically where you add all of the little pieces together and you use the time estimation for each little piece as a basis to kind of create the whole. So for example, if you're making a game, let's say you're making a 4v4 PvP shooter or whatever. You need 5 different character classes. Each character takes maybe 4 hours. So right there you're looking at 5 times the 4 hours. Then you need the map, and how long do the map takes? Okay, it takes 15 hours, whatever. You need the multiplayer code. How long does that take? Let's say it takes 2 weeks. You need the UI. How long does that take? 2 days. Boom. And so on and so forth. You basically estimate the length of every single task and you add it all together. This has been kind of effective for me. It really depends. Like I've noticed that most of the time I tend to underestimate the time it takes, even if I have written proof of like previous experiences on how long stuff is taken. And even if I ask people directly, like artists will always tell me, oh, this will take about 6-8 hours. They're almost never accurate. I don't know why this is, but it's just, estimation is hard, man. The fifth way is to get the average of bottom up and top down. And this has been the most effective method for me that I think, because top down based on experience and based on the overview. Bottom up is based on the individual pieces and how long each one takes. Usually there's a range in between them, top down and bottom up. And if you can kind of take both of those and meld them together and get an average, and I like to add 50% on top of that just to be safe. But if you can kind of get the average of the two, you can kind of guess generally how long it'll take. Again, this takes really good knowledge of you and your team's capabilities and the objective. And the last way, number 6, is to get estimations from teammates and then average them and triple them. And this method doesn't have a name. This is something that I just kind of came up with. I might have heard it at a conference somewhere or something, but it's something that I've used with anything with teams generally. I figure out, okay, you say this will take 2 weeks, you say this will take 3 weeks, so I'll average that, we'll say 2.5 weeks, and then I'll triple it. And that's what I'll tell the client. So usually that's an overestimation. Most of my other estimations are underestimations. This almost always gives me an overestimation, which is why I think it's safe to give to clients. And that's why I use it for clients, because usually I can deliver early, and that always looks good with a client, right? Like rather than say, oh, it'll be done in 4 weeks and it's done in 5 weeks and I look stupid because I deliver late, I'll say it'll be done in 8 weeks and then I deliver in 4 weeks, which makes me look great because now I delivered early and I'm awesome. So you want to make sure, like for me personally, when I'm working alone, I like to do the average of top down and bottom up because I know my capabilities, I know how long it takes me to do stuff, and I feel like it's really helpful to do that. When I'm working with a team, my personal preference is to do the average of the team and triple it because that seems to be the safest. And there have been some times where we have worked right up to the deadline and finished stuff. I've never been late with that method, but for clients, I just feel much safer doing that. So those are kind of my 6 ways on how to estimate the length of your project. Keep in mind, the less experience that you have, the more inaccurate this will be. Estimations are always based on experience, and they're based on knowledge of you and what you're capable of, what your team is capable of, and the objective. So the less experience you have, the less you're going to know about all those things, and the crazier that all of this can get. And so I just want to warn you that if you don't have a lot of experience, your estimations are going to be out of whack. But that's completely normal, and the good thing is that you can get better at this over time. And so hopefully you've learned a little bit about how to estimate projects, and if you're working with clients or you're not working with clients, whatever, you're just trying to figure out how long it's going to take you to make a game, hopefully this helped you out a lot. So my name is Tim Roswick, and I'll see you again tomorrow.